say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner was an African-American inventor who was born on May 17, 1912 in Monroe, North Carolina, near Charlotte. She came from a line of inventors. Her grandfather invented a tricolor light signal for trains as a way to communicate multiple messages to guide trains. Her father, Sidney Nathaniel Davidson, invented and patented a clothing presser that could be stored in suitcases and would press one's clothes while traveling. Her sister, Mildred Davidson Austin Smith, invented and commercially sold board games. She spent her childhood brainstorming new improvements and inventions, drawing up models, and assembling prototypes. For example, she created a sponge tip that could be attached to the end of a wet umbrella to stop rainwater from dripping on the floor. She recognized that most passengers seated in the folded rumble seats of cars usually became victim to poor weather, so she created a convertible roof that would extend over the back of the car to protect each passenger equally. She also created a portable ashtray that could be secured onto a cigarette packet. She graduated from high school in 1931 and attended Howard University. Unfortunately, she was unable to finish because she could not pay tuition due to financial hardship. She took on whatever job she could find, eventually settling into a full-time position as a federal employee, which allowed her to support her designing in her free time. Mary Kenner is best known for her invention of the sanitary belt. A sanitary belt was an elastic belt used to hold sanitary napkins in place. The belt was secured by safety pins or clips. During this time, disposable pads were not yet available, and women were still using cloth pads and rags during their menstrual cycles. They had to continuously wash and reuse the rags, which also presented little protection for clothes from leaks and staining. Tampons were available for women, but they were discouraged from using them because they were seen as indecent at that time. Unfortunately, the sanitary belt was not used until 30 years after her invention because the company that first showed interest in her creation rejected it after they learned that she was an African American woman. Sadly, more rejections came due to heavy racism. Ultimately, Kenner was able to save enough money to file a patent and was awarded the patent for her invention of the sanitary belt on May 15, 1956. She continued to improve the belt by adding a built-in moisture-proof napkin pocket that helped with leak protection and to avoid staining clothes. She was granted a patent for this invention on April 14, 1959. Mary Kenner received several patents for her household and personal item creations. In 1959, she patented the carrier attachment for a walker after her sister Mildred developed multiple sclerosis. This consisted of a tray and soft pocket that could attach to the frame, allowing Mildred to carry items around with her. On October 19, 1982, Kenner and Mildred shared the patent on the toilet tissue holder. Also, on September 29, 1987, Mary held a patent on a back washer and massager that could be mounted on the shower or bathtub wall. In total, Mary filed 5 patents, which was and still is more than any other African American woman in history. None of her inventions were lucrative, but she continued to do what she loved and helped change the lives of women all over the world.
African and Indian students stuck in Ukraine are accusing officials of discriminating against them and pushing them back from getting to the border. Videos have been posted on social media said to show black people being prevented from boarding a train and left stranded at a railway station in Lviv as Ukrainians were allowed on. Others said they were turned back from the border and were even being shot at. Like this video, Indian students claim Ukrainian guards on the Polish border beat them up and didn't allow them to cross. Tens of thousands of international students have been stuck in Ukraine since the war started. On Skype with us now from Warsaw is Monika Matus, a human rights activist working for the NGO Grupa Granica. Monika, thank you for your time. In your opinion, what's happening here? Why would, I mean, there's a lot of international students in Ukraine, as I've learned. Why the discrimination against them?
We think it's really just, honestly, first of all, I think it's on both sides. So the Ukrainian border guards are preventing people from passing through, and then the Polish border guards are not better. In this case, they are also actually stopping people and not letting them in. We don't know why exactly. I mean, I think it's just a question of not having Ukrainian passport. We hear about students from African countries, from India, from many other Asian countries. We also hear about people from countries that, the people who actually were trying to flee the war in other countries, so Yemen and Syria. Mm-hmm. There's also people, right now we are solving the case of a Yemeni boy who is stuck at the border in Medica, who is trying to pass through, and there has been huge issues and problems to let him actually enter Poland. I don't know if it's solved yet right now, because I've just been on the phone about this case. Mm. And so I don't know what's exactly the reason. I think it's really just an issue of not having Ukrainian passport. And I just want to add that, the racism from at least Polish government and Polish authorities has been widely known already. We criticized the fact that, the Border Patrol is actually still operating on the northern Polish-Belarusian border. and they are still not letting people in and apply for asylum. Whereas we are rightly so allowing Ukrainians fleeing war, enter EU without any issues, without any problems. This is bluntly unfair, I think.
Do you know if any government, any officials from either side are actually acknowledging there's an issue there, or to them are they just viewing it as, well, it's a chaotic situation, we're suddenly in a war situation and there's so many people flooding the borders?
I cannot speak for Ukrainian border guards, but the Polish border patrol, yesterday they issued a very short statement on Twitter, I think in reaction to all of those videos and news on social media, saying that we need to stop fake news because it's actually fake and they are allowing everybody in. Well, I mean, maybe it is true, maybe they are allowing everybody in, but it actually takes quite much longer time for people without Ukrainian passports to cross the border, and quite often they are moved back to the end of the queue.
Monica, thank you so much for your time. Another part of this story which we must address, and we thank you for your expertise.
Thank you.
In the US and other countries. They say they are paid less than $5 a day for 9 hours of work. They're demanding the equivalent of 15. An inflation rate of around 20% in the country is a major concern. Workers say they spent half their salary to pay for transportation just to go to work.
We are launching the movement to demand the government listen to our voices so that it can adjust the minimum wage. We have made some steps and sent letters to them. They have never heard us.
The protest began last week, and on Thursday the police again used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse the demonstration. Factory workers used burning tires to block the roads.
We're protesting peacefully with sticks. The police are abusing us. We do not consider them as police. We consider them as gangs.
Haiti is in the middle of a political and social crisis since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. Gangs control large sectors of the capital, and violence and kidnappings are widespread. The country is also struggling to recover from a devastating 7.2 earthquake which destroyed the southern tip of the peninsula, something the acting Prime Minister addressed at the Donors Conference on Wednesday.
Haïti n'a pas seulement connu des chocs naturels.
Haiti was not only hit by a natural shock, but it's also affected by others of human origin, which shows its vulnerability. Social and political movements and rising crime constitute the challenges we have to face.
As tensions in the Caribbean island run high, workers here say they will continue with their struggle for better wages. They say they haven't had a raise in more than 3 years and will continue protesting until the government meets their demands. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera.